Hey gang, Will here from the Ashland Fly Shop. It's the 10th of August. Around this time we typically like to do a steelhead preview for you for the year. So we're going to get into a little bit of detail here. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee or a beer, and we're going to kind of go through what we've been seeing so far this season and what we kind of expect from the rest of the year as we get closer to the peak of the season for steelhead for this year on the Rogue. So we really start seeing the first fish kind of come in June, mid to late June, and that's when we as kind of locals start to kind of poke around with our proximity to the Rogue River here. We'll start to look around in the, late in the evening or early in the morning and look for some of those first fish, and we'll be doing that through now kind of first part of August, mid-August, we start to get a little more serious. We're starting to do full days. We're really starting to get out and poke around and try and find them, and the numbers reflect that. So we've got about 900 or 1,000 fish that have made it up to the hatchery already. So what does that reflect in our section of the river, kind of the upper river? We consider that between, the dam down through about Rogue River or so, or Gold Ray Dam. What does that reflect on numbers? It's really hard to say with the wild fish mixed in. I typically like to think of it as about maybe a third of what's in there. So we could be looking at, 2,500, 3,000 fish kind of in that section. So that's a pretty decent number of fish to start with, where we're at. And we're seeing that number kind of build, and we're seeing pulses of fish come in, and then we'll see some dry periods too. So that's about what we're looking at right now. That gives us a little bit of feedback on what's happening there. Water level and temps this year are really as good as you could ask for it, and that's really in response to the great winter that we had with a lot of precipitation. Looking at the median flows, they're around 1,500 this time of year, and we've got about 2,400 at Dodge Bridge for a flow. We've got about 2,000 coming out of the dam, so we're above the median kind of average, which is great because these really warm summers can really take your toll. Even on an average flow, I think we would be looking at some potential river closures with the temperatures that we've had this summer. So I think a lot of Northwest rivers are experiencing that, and very fortunate to have the winter that we had, or we'd be in very, very different shape as we have been in the past. So, love it or hate it, Lost Creek Dam is really responsible for that. The cool water, the amount of water that is set aside for fish. We're really fortunate to have that cool water coming out of there, and it makes a big, big difference in the upper river. Stream flows are about 53 to about going up to about 63 or 4 in the upper river, and that's just a really nice temp for fish to be comfortable in and hold in. A little warmer downstream, in the Grants Pass area, they're seeing temps up into the 70s, and then obviously lower down. So fish will hold there. Fishing in the morning in that area is good in the early morning, but in the evening can be really good, but that's getting pretty warm down there. And that's why we tend to see more fish in the upper river at this time of year. They really move through. They're very uncomfortable in that warm water, and they really move through it quickly, and they get into this cooler water and they really start to slow down. And so we're really fortunate to have that happening kind of right in our backyard. So water temps, water levels are quite nice. And as a piece of that, once we get into mid-September, that's when we start to see the flows come down. We get cooler temperatures, cooler nighttime temperatures, daytime temperatures, and we'll see that water start to step down. But we won't see that for a little while yet. So we've got good water temps and good conditions for this time of year, good stream flow. We've got good numbers of fish around for this time of year, more fish coming in all the time. So how are we approaching these fish? So really the same tactics that we always use, nymph fishing, and then a down and across swing, more of a traditional swing that we've kind of modernized over the last 10 years. So we really like, if we're nymphing, we really like indicators and heavy stone flies. The Otis bug, the AFS improved Otis bug, trout retrievers, different flies like this, just large dark stones or hot bead stones can work very well in 4s, 6s, and 8s. Tied pretty heavy, so they sink good. Those are really great patterns that we've really relied on for years. Drop flies, we like tungsten bead copper johns, red, Chartreuse works well. We like pheasant tails, prince nymphs, natural stuff. I always like to do kind of a mix of natural and then sort of impressionistic. You see a lot of different types of steelhead bugs, and that's a lot due to steelhead just being the fish they are and being pretty snappy and pretty curious. They'll eat lots of different things. But those are flies that have worked well for us year after year. The great thing about steelhead is they're new every year. Surprise, surprise. They're new fish every year, so we don't have to really crack the code on them every year like you might have to for a real tricky trout. Swinging, as you know, if you tune in to us here, we love to swing flies, and we're using a lot of the same tactics. So a lot of folks like to swing dry line this time of year. That's fantastic. We do see fish taken on dry line in the upper road quite often, more traditional flies. We got some hardy souls out there skating flies, and we'll see a handful of fish show up from that. A little bit more on the traditional bugs, you know, Lady Carolines, green butt skunks, things like that. We like those flies. Those can be fished on a floating line, or they can be fished on an intermediate tip, or even even like a moderate sinking tip. Those are good. And don't be afraid to fish your Skagit stuff. You know, you can definitely fish a T11 tip with more of a standard intruder type fly. We really like the small signature intruders and the hot hair series that we tie here. Those are very, very good smaller intruder style patterns, or trailing hook style patterns that work very, very well this time of year and as we get more into the fall. Really good choice of flies. So all those tactics are going to be really a good bet for this time of year. We're not adjusting so much, not so different than it is in the peak of the run in the fall. Maybe a little bit smaller fly size, maybe a little bit more in the top of the water column. These fish are really moving. You know, they really have tendency to move around a lot more than they will when the when the water gets cooler and they really kind of stick down to the bottom a little bit more. Now they're really more active. They're more active fish in the water temps that they have. So so a lot of the same tactics that we're always using. So there you have it. Water temps, levels, flies, tactics, fish numbers. You know, we're so fortunate to have what we have here in the Rogue Valley, and I say it often. You know, I talk to people a lot about it. We're very fortunate to have the water quality that we have at this time of year. We're very fortunate to have the riparian habitat. We're very fortunate to have the the tributaries that we have that have a lot of shade and cover. We're extremely fortunate to have the half-pounder life run in these fish that we have that makes them a little hardier when they come back in. So the Rogue tends to be a very outstanding early season, early-ish season steelhead river, and it's proven that out year to year. It's been a very exceptional place to fish through our drought seasons, and so we've been very. I won't say we're totally insulated from a lot of the things that are happening on the West Coast, but I do think we're a bright spot, and we count our lucky stars every day, and we work for it as well. So, so please give us a call if you're interested in fishing the Rogue. We'd love to talk to you about it, talk to you about the river, and a little more detail on the tactics that we're using. Thanks a lot for tuning into this preview, and we'll see you soon.